Well, kids, this is going to be our last time together. I know officially we have a class that's like Thursday, but, you know, honestly, I'm tired, and I get the feeling like everybody's just kind of tired. And I've got some assignments up, and so that'll give you time to do those. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to go over the two very easy assignments. So consider these your final. So we will not meet in a room for the final. These last two assignments are like your final. And so it's the same assignments that people in person are taking and people online. And one of the reasons last class I kept getting emails all last week, and it turns out everybody else has already made plans for this week during this time, so we would only be half attendance anyway. And so I'm going to briefly go over what those two assignments are. Again, they're really, really easy. And then I'm going to just talk about some other thing, briefly wrap up supply chain management. Talk about other, if you're interested in this, other things you can do, like at the graduate level in supply chain management, either now or later. So the assignments are two things. And they're both already posted. And so lecture set G, wrapping up the course, info on final two assignments, assignment on optimal transportation, and assignment on vocabulary assignment number 2. Let's first look at optimal transportation. We have already made a model in this class of this scenario. It's identical scenario. I didn't even change any parameters or anything. So this is the model that we made in class for this, and everybody who's been here has been able to make the model. Even if for people online, I believe there's a whole video where I make the model online. But of course, I've always have a standing opportunity that I can have extra Zoom sessions for people taking an online course, if you'd like. And of course, anytime y'all have questions, you feel free to ask. We had this scenario where we had 2 plants, 2 distribution centers, 3 regions, and we had to figure out the least cost transportation way of getting stuff from plants to the regions. And I didn't even, in this assignment, I didn't even change our parameters. I didn't change the cost numbers or anything. And so the first question there is, and I do want you download this document, save it under your full name, and type all the answers in here. And the first thing you do is you just put the answers there. So this is what we did last time. You got a total cost, you put the total cost here, the number of units you ship from plant 1 to distribution center A, put it there. Units go from distribution center B to region 3, you put it there. So you've already got those answers, you just throw them in there. That's 200 points right now. The whole assignment is 800 points. And so there's 200 points there. And then we simulate something, and this is actually really, really easy. So what we're simulating is we're saying, okay, what would happen if distribution center B shut down? For instance, what would happen if, because of COVID, we had to shut that whole distribution center down for a week because so many people will turn it up with positive COVID tests? What would that cost us? This is a way for us preparing for things. Well, in the model, you can really easily simulate the distribution center shutting down by doing this. Well, you can just say, okay, I'll show you. You basically give the model different costs where it would never choose distribution center B. So whereas here I say it costs $205 to go from plant 2 to distribution center B, make it $20,000. Here, $210 to take a unit from plant 1 to distribution center B, make it $20,000. Such a ridiculously high number that the model would never ever choose using distribution center B. That's the same thing as telling the model you can't use distribution center B. And so you're going to get a new solution where everything goes through distribution center A. and then you report the solution there. You tell us the new total costs. Your total costs are going to go up because now this distribution center that was available to you is no longer available. So by definition, costs either have to stay the same or go up when you remove options. And then you tell me the new solution, the new flow of things. Again, that's really easy. And that's another 200 points. The third question is about how you actually use this. And that's really simple as well. So suppose that we find that when we shut distribution center B down, our total costs, total transportation costs go up $5,000. And at the beginning of this document I say, let's assume all these numbers are in weeks. So if total cost goes up $5,000, that means our costs increase by $5,000 per week. And then what this is saying is, what's the max amount of money the company should be willing to spend to keep that plant running? For instance, to prevent a shutdown because of COVID, what's the extra money we could spend to keep workers healthy? Maybe earlier testing, some screening, that kind of thing. And that's really easy, and I'm basically telling you the answer, not the numerical answer, but how to get it. If you find that shutting distribution center down B increases your cost $5,000 per week, then you should be able to pay up to $5,000 per week to keep distribution center B open. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And if you can incur extra cost of $2,000 per week to keep it open, and that keeps your expenses from going up $5,000, then you've saved $3,000 per week. Does that make sense? Does? And those are really, I think they're really three easy ones. And then the last one's a little bit tougher, but it's actually not that hard. So we have this resource flow equation, the one that says we got to make sure that everything that comes out of distribution center A has to enter distribution center A. The number of units that go into distribution center B have to leave distribution center B. And then we've got, like I've done before, when I throw a tweak in there, now we've got shrinkage. And what I'm saying here is that there's 5% shrinkage, such that 5% of the units entering any one distribution center D is now lost due to employee theft, due to accidents, due to perishability. And so of all the stuff that goes into a distribution center, only 95% is available to leave the distribution center to go to the regions. And all I ask you to do there is to modify this equation to account for that shrinkage. And I do want you to use, and I want you to type all your answers in here. You're going to upload this document to the assignments. And so I would just copy this and paste it down here, and then put in the numbers where you think it should go to account for shrinkage. This is, you remember we've done shrinkage before in regards to inventory. We had to modify our inventory constraint to account for shrinkage. Now we're just modifying the resource, the distribution center flow constraint to account for shrinkage. It just takes a little logic. You don't even really do manipulations of algebra, you just have to make sense of it. Okay. And for this one, don't email me asking me if you got it right. I can help you think through it, but I'm not going to just tell you whether you got it right. And so this is, I think, a ridiculously easy assignment worth 800 points. And then in keeping with the spirit that there's supposed to be something somewhat comprehensive, I've got another 400 point assignment on another vocabulary quiz. So these are just the instructions, but you'll take it on Canvas. And so these are, I have both of these due May 5th at midnight, but they're available for you to turn in anytime. So this is like before, where we have all the, and this is what because one of the most important things in supply chain management is vocabulary. As much as anything, supply chain management is just a way of talking. And I've said a number of times, the most important thing about supply chain management is just talking the supply chain management language, kind of like in accounting. And so I want you to review these words. So what's going to happen is these are all the vocabulary words that can serve as answers. And this is identical to the vocabulary quiz you took before, except now we have a few new words. And I'm going to even discuss what those are. In regards to inventory, there's a definition where the answer is inventory on hand. We have the word stochastic, that just means random. So at one point we said, how do we manage inventory if demand for the inventory is random, unpredictable? And another word for that is stochastic. When we had random demand, we often said it was, we're going to assume demand is IID, and that was independently and identically distributed. So there'll be a question we'll ask you what one of the I's in IID stands for. There's a question where the answers lead for lead time, the number of days between which you place an order and the order arrives. So those are the few new terms that have to do with inventory. And then there's a few new words that have to do with optimization. Remember that of all the variables in an optimization model, Excel is choosing the optimal value of some of those variables, and those are our decision variables, like the number of units to go from plant 1 to distribution center A. Whereas some of the numbers or variables are given to us as numbers that we don't change and we don't affect, like the per unit cost of going from plant 1 to distribution center A. That's a parameter. And then every now and then we have a decision variable that was binary, meaning it's either 0 or it's 1, like whether we produce gum A in this month or not. And so that's the binary there. And the rest of them are the same. Ones you've done before, you'll have to review it some, of course, but they're there. But you've done them. And y'all did very well when y'all took this before. And it's gonna look like this. And so just a reminder what this is like. So when you go to take it, you open it up here. You're going to give, it's going to, of all those words, it's going to randomly choose 20 of them. And it's going to present them to you one at a time. You have 8 minutes to take the quiz, but you can take it up to 15 different times. And so what you're going to do is you come here. Okay, so even, it's going to give you the words here. And so prediction of how many units the product consumers buy in the future. Maybe that's forecast. You put in 1, and it's going to randomly choose another one. You got something else. You put in the word, go next, and you do that over and over for 20 times. And then it's going to give you a score, and you can keep the score, or you can take it again for a higher score, and it's going to give you the highest score out of all that you take. So you can, keep taking it until you get the highest score that you like. I'll try to remember. You are welcome to remind me if I don't, but some of you don't really need to do well on this to even get an A. Y'all have got high grades in here. And so it may be obvious to you how you calculate your grade in here. You just look at all the number of points you could have earned, and you take the number of points you did earn divided by the number of points you could have earned. That's your percentage grade. But just, even that's obvious to you. I know y'all feel more comfortable if I tell you what that total number of points you could have earned is, and I'll try to remember to send an email that says that. So, and that way you can go in and you can say, what if I don't even take this? It might be some of you can just not even take this and still get an A, I don't know. Or you might say, how many points do I need to to keep my A, something like that. But remember, if you calculate it wrong, it's not my fault. Okay. And again, this is open now, and it's open until May 5th. Is that good? Okay, last couple things. And this is about some other things you can do in supply chain management. Let me just describe some other opportunities that are open to you. You know, most of y'all are ag econ students, and if you're really liking supply chain management, and if you're thinking going into masters in ag econ will teach you more of this stuff, you're going to be disappointed. I think y'all will agree. Masters in Ag Econ is not about applied business stuff. It's more like a social science. It's a lot of math, and you hardly ever apply things to business strategy or business topics unless you have to go back and take one of the undergrad classes in it, for the most part. Is that fair? Okay. So, you know, so we have two grad students. One is doing our thesis on what is the role of, when we import beef, what are we using it for? That's to help educate cattle people. Another student here is doing her thesis on the impact of COVID-19 on the number of people who go to food pantries to request food. Okay? There's no business stuff there. Masters in Ag Econ is not like an MBA. There probably are some schools like that, but most of them aren't, ours isn't. The good thing about Masters of Ag Econ is you can get paid to go to school. You can get like about $17,000 a year to get your master's degree, which is a pretty sweet deal. People who are interested in going to grad school for things that are more directly business related, one of the first things that comes to mind is like an MBA. And MBAs are certainly good. They're valuable, they're versatile. They're a bit generic in that so many people in the business world have them. But so many people have them that it's kind of like a college degree now. You kind of, for certain jobs, you just got to have it, even if it's not really related to anything. And so MBA is just like one step above undergrad. MBAs are really easy to get at most schools. You basically just pay for them. You do learn some things there, but you'd also be covering things that you've already learned. But there will be, depending on MBA programs, there are programs that have certain specialties in or focuses in supply chain management. But one you may not be aware of, and one that I've mentioned a number of times, and this is really just available to you. If you're a good student and you're not sick of school yet, and you like the supply chain management and you want to keep going and do kind of the stuff like we've been doing here, but up a level, the Industrial Engineering Department now offers a graduate certificate in supply chain management. And so certificates, y'all are used to thinking of majors and minors. Well, certificates are replacing minors for the most part. And that's going to happen because you can get financial aid for certificates, but you cannot get financial aid for minors anymore. And what this is, in industrial engineering, to get the certificate, you take 4 courses. And they're 5,000 level, which means it's graduate level. But I do think you can do it. I've got a student who's taken some of these courses. You can do them. And so you just take those 12 courses. They're actually all offered online. And I'm pretty sure they're going to keep doing this certificate for at least the next 15 years. So this is something like, even if you take a job now and you wanted to keep boosting your resume while you're on the job, you can take 1 course per semester. And just 1 course a semester, and after 2 years you have this graduate certificate in supply chain management, which is a cool thing to have. It's from OSU, so it's accredited. It's got engineering in it, so that sounds fancy. It sounds really hard. And it's graduate level certificate. And there's a good chance, like if you start working somewhere, your employer will pay your tuition to do it. They do a lot of that now. But industrial engineering probably sounds kind of scary to you. Is it hard in this course? Oh God, yes, harder in this course. But probably not as hard as you think, and it's probably not exactly what you think it is, and I think you would be prepared for it. So let me show you a couple things about it. So we have these 4 things, and those 4 courses there, some of them don't have any prerequisites. So supply chain strategy there has no prerequisites. Now you would need permission to take the course, but once they saw you had a BS in Ag Econ or Ag Business, they would let you in, because Ag Econ / Ag Business is surprisingly similar to industrial engineering. They're even doing a program where once you graduate from here, you can go take 1 year of industrial engineering courses and have a master's in industrial engineering. There's lots of similarities for one thing. And so supply chain strategy, maybe you like supply chain management, but you didn't like the quantitative stuff so much. Even though this is an engineering course, there's no quant stuff in supply chain strategy at all. It's all case studies. And that's what you find in MBAs as well. Case studies where and in this course I got to see some exams and syllabus, and that's where you look at 10 different case studies that looks at, like, let's say 10 different issues or problem in supply chain management, and you read the case studies, and in the process you learn more vocabulary, you learn more how supply chains are actually developed in companies, and all exams and stuff are answered through like essay questions. And so it's analytical, but it's narrative analytical. Then you have these 3: integrated manufacturing control system, advanced production control, facility location, warehousing, freight transportation. And those have a prereq, but the prereq is this. The prereqs for those is this one course, Introduction to Optimization. What we've been doing the last 1/3 of this class. And again, all of these are online, no prerequisites for this. Intro to Optimization is basically what we've been doing, linear programming, except they're going to move faster, you build bigger models. It's just what we've been doing, but on steroids at a graduate level. And now if you do like the programming in Masters in Ag Econ, like our grad students have to take a whole course on programming, where that's all they do, and they get really fancy into it. But in that grad program, they're going to do more than I think they would do in this Introduction to Optimization here. And so even when you look at some of the prereqs for those industrial engineering courses, that prereq is Introduction to Optimization, and I'm pretty sure they would let you in these courses with what you've had in here so far. By the way, I'm not getting paid by industrial. I don't even have a friend in industrial engineering. I don't know anybody there. And so this isn't a commercial, it's just this is something new. And I remember last year I had like 3 students who really liked this topic, and they wanted to know some other places where they could take more supply chain management courses, and so I thought I'd throw this into them. But like facility location, warehousing, and freight transportation, that's the transportation models we've been dealing with. But like they're saying, instead of me giving you distribution centers, you say like, what if we put a distribution center here? We solve an optimization model, how much money does it save? Is that worth it for building the distribution center? Advanced production control, that's going to be like the optimization we did with the gum stuff. How much should we produce and when? And integrated manufacturing control systems, I think that's going to be a lot more like accounting, where you focus on sharing information between different groups and businesses and measuring supply chain efficiency, that kind of thing. So actually, I'm really high on this program. Just based on what I know it. 1, because I think the stuff they're teaching is good. 2, I like the diversity of way they're teaching. Sometimes it's just case studies, sometimes it's programming. And 3, it's got engineering attached to it. And engineering has lots of prestige, it always does. And y'all could do it. So I'd say if you're a little interested in it, you might just want to take one when you can, see how you like it, and go from there. And the last thing, Remind me again, what's the most important thing about supply chain management? Saying supply chain management. All right? It is style over substance. It's the same thing people have done before, but you're just using different words. And if the words change, you got to go with it, because the world's full of BS, and you got to use the BS to go with it. Right? Make sense? So if you can just remember one thing from this class, supply chain. You meet someone in business, how's your supply chain doing? What's your supply chain analytics like? Sound like you know what you're doing. They'll respond using the same words. They probably don't know much more than you do. All right? There's a lot of language. But that said, it's a lot of language, but there's a lot of meat in there too. There's a lot of actual topics that's very important to business. Any last questions or anything? Okay, well, once you go down to do the assignments, if there's any confusion about it, just let me know. It's been a pleasure teaching you. Best of luck to you, especially to those graduated. Kylie, I think you picked out a perfect apparel for your graduation. Trevor's got to take 2 classes this summer to graduate. We'll see whether he can do it. And Stevie Ray just started a book. So he's really looking. Ethan, you don't even, how much money you made now?
$1,000,000.
What's that?
$1,000,000.
$1,000,000? Hey, look at that.